The insights for day 2, hour 3, our last segment.
We made it to the end. Tragedy has struck, though, Alex, as promised. I did some recon at lunch, and we're all about disasters here. I think a tsunami or a typhoon or a tornado hit the dessert trays. Unfortunately, our audience can't see this, but I took a picture for you. There's literally
There's
nothing
there.
There's nothing left. People must have loved the desserts here. If you want to see this picture, send us a message. I'll share it with you. I've never seen a dessert tray this cleared out.
Well,
But
my waistline is happy with the
if that's the worst thing happens today, it's a good day. So
Yeah.
we're at the top of our final hour.
Mhm.
Continuity Insights Management Conference, Louisville 2022.
And we've got a couple of people that are going to stop by. And one I finally met after about, was it 4 years of being 4 years being online? He'll be here in just a second. 4 years talking back online. He even helped me edit and review my last book. And we're finally meeting face to face for a change.
Very exciting.
But I won't say who it is. Yeah, not
It's a mystery.
Yet.
It's a
He'll be
mystery
over
guest.
in a
We'll be here in just a minute.
Yeah. But we're going to chat with him for a little while. He's got a nice announcement and give us some insights on something that's happening with him. And I'm sure everyone's going to recognize who he is. Just if I said the title of his book, you'll probably start throwing things at the screen.
We have a few other guests, and we have 9 topics we haven't gotten to, which we're probably not going to get to in 1 hour.
No.
So we're going to do spillover, or maybe we'll hold some relevant things for our next this week in business continuity.
Which is only 2 weeks away.
Which is only 2 weeks away. More of us. So while we're waiting for our guests to come up, Alex, the next conference that you will be at in person, do you know?
Not confirmed yet. But it
Myself
could be,
as well.
It could be DRJ. It could be BCI World. It could be Continuity and Resilience Today / DEMCOM in Toronto. It could be any of those.
Very nice. There's a lot of could be's there. I am scheduled to be at the GFMI Operational Resilience Conference. Don't ask me what it stands for. I don't know what it stands for. GFMI, Marcus Evans, they host conferences. I was at their third-party risk management conference last month teaching a masterclass on resilience. I will be at their Operational Resilience Conference in June in New York City, also teaching a masterclass on resilience. That's the next thing I have purchased plane tickets for. But like yourself, after that, it's all up in the air.
Well, I could say I'm not traveling for this, but I will be presenting with the Business Continuity Planners Association in July. But that'll be via Teams or WebEx or whatever platform they use. Talking about crisis management, I believe. So I have that presentation, but I'm not traveling, and it's not a real conference. It's
but now that you're out in the real world, are you going to be okay going back home?
Going home, yeah. I can't what's the saying? There's no place like home, no matter where you are in the world. Going back home, so I'm looking forward to that. And I think having my anxiety attack yesterday or 2 days ago in the airport, I think I'll be better suited going home and traveling again now. It was just, that first realization. Oh my God, so many people.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah, freaked me out. So.
Tracy mentioned in our last segment the buzz and excitement that we have felt at this conference. And I think that's true. People being able to communicate and meet with people that they've only met virtually before, just catching up with people. There has been a level of excitement that I've seen at conferences the last month and a half that I certainly didn't see in 2018, 2019.
Yeah, I think because we've got so many new experiences. If we haven't learned anything from COVID or experienced anything different, I wonder where the heck you were in the world. We all have new experiences, new ways of thinking, how things change in our organizations, everything. And I think there's a desire to learn that from other people, but also a desire to communicate these new things that you've learned and experienced. So everyone is excited. I've talked to our first guest. I've talked to him on.
I might have to throw something to our first guest. Throw something out there.
Yeah, for 4 years, and it's all been online. And today I finally got to meet him face to face. So it's kind of exciting. You get to do that.
It was interesting. One of the speakers yesterday, they had done a survey ahead of time of their, I'm not sure what the survey audience was, but 99% of the audience said they had experienced a business continuity incident or disruption the last year and a half. And I want to know who that 1% is that COVID did not impact them in any way. And that's actually a question for our audience. If you're part of that 1% who the last 2.5 years, nothing changed, I'm not calling you a liar, but I would love to hear your story about how your life is exactly the same. You haven't had a bump in the night at all.
I'm not using the L word, but I don't believe them.
I feel that's the kind of Kim Jong-un type election results that should have been 100%.
Yeah, I don't believe them if somebody said they weren't impacted, because there's no way, absolutely no way. I know I was, family was, friends, neighbors, didn't matter who, everybody was impacted on some level, some harder than others, granted, but no impact. That's someone's too afraid to admit something.
Exactly.
Or maybe they were told by their employer, everything went well, don't admit to anything else. Who knows?
All right, I think I've managed to get our first guest's attention.
Oh, great. He's here.
Speaking of not admitting to anything, what? I was not lying. Oh, wait, I was. No, what's going on, guys?
I want to welcome to the show David Lindstedt, Dr. David Lindstedt.
Hi, everybody.
David.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. As I said, we've been talking, online. He's been on the show 4 or 5 times.
And the expression of disgust and horror on his face when he finally saw me in person was priceless. So, that's really good.
His too.
These are the things that bring us together as professionals in a discipline. I think that's important. It's those things you miss on the live Zoom recordings. Yeah.
Yes. It's good to see you. I'm glad you're here.
Cool. Well, that makes one of the people around here. That's great. So what's going on?
Well,
you guys have had just a whole bunch of people coming through here.
We have. It's been fun. We're thankful. Yeah. We've had people show up, and I'm sure the audience is thankful that they don't have to listen to us talk for 3 hours straight.
Yeah. But it's awesome. I mean, it's such a great idea to have it live streaming and recorded and things. It's just really, it's nice we can do these kinds of things now. So,
absolutely.
If you can't be here, it's like, all right, well, you get a little flavor of things. You can check in a little once in a while, see what's going on. It's all right.
So tell us what brings you here. You have your speaking.
It was a Lexus. It's very old though. So yeah.
We have a comedian on as our next guest.
You're speaking today, tomorrow?
I'm speaking tomorrow. Yep. I'm speaking on
BIAs and the power of them.
Yes. I think the point, we need to spend more time collecting data.
Yes. I know you're a big proponent.
I'm a big proponent. I think one of the things we learned with COVID is that leadership really relied on the BIA, and particularly the shelfware. I prefer Iconoclast, but sure, we'll go.
You guys are disturbers, big time.
Yeah, pretty much.
But seriously, your topic tomorrow.
Okay, so in the afternoon, I'm talking about, and we're gonna do some real interactive things, because I think I want to talk about preparing for escalating crisis in Ukraine.
Okay.
So if we needed to move very quickly, if there was, and you can imagine, death of an American on the ground, something like invasion of boots on the ground in Poland, a nuclear strike. Okay, there's lots of bad things that this could go sideways and south so many ways. How do we rapidly prepare for something like that? Because we're not going to know what it is and what's going to be affected. So that's in the afternoon. In the morning, I'm talking about organizational resilience and the realities of organizational resilience. Just finished a couple of years of research on that topic, and I've got a book coming out this summer. And the research and the stories and the case studies and the interviews were fascinating. Most of the ideas I had about organizational resilience going into writing the book they're gone now. It's really interesting, fascinating stuff.
I remember getting to read a chapter or two that you sent, I guess it'd be a year ago.
Yeah, probably.
Quite a while ago. And I'm sure it's changed a lot since then. Is there anything that maybe you can share with us that might be in that book? And the title, by the way.
So, what is the title? Building Organizational Resilience Through Change, Chance, and Complexity. Change, chance, and complexity. I think that's right. All right, so do it this way. Here's kind of a fun way. All right, so take a minute. Come up with an image, not a sentence, not a diagram. Come up with an image. The first thing that you can think of when you get to the term resilient. What is it, Alex? Quick.
The first thing that jumped in my mind was actually a vision of my presentation yesterday, where I had all the technical issues.
Okay, right.
But kept going.
You kept going, right?
Yeah. What dropped in my head.
Right. Okay. And
I have a picture of a tree in a field that's been struck by lightning but is still alive.
Right. The one that I always had was, and you see that when you do a Google of resilience, is like the asphalt that goes everywhere, and there's one little crack, and there's one little tiny flower growing up in the crack, right? So I think we come into discussions of resilience from two different ways, and I used to think they were the right ways, and now I think they're completely wrong. So the first is sort of like the individual resilience, right? And that's the person who's been battered by life and been battered by technical things, and looking at you, been battered by a lot more than that. And so, and just sort of the ability to keep going regardless of the circumstances. And it's a lot about grit, right? It's the power of a skinned knee. It's the growth mindset. It's the stick-to-itness. In the research and in the stories, the case studies, if you think back to what you did during COVID, it wasn't about a bunch of resilient individuals coming together, being resilient, and doing the same thing they always did, right? Mm-hmm. That's not it. And in fact, there's the organizations that did the best during COVID are had no more resilient individuals than anybody else, right? I mean, people had crappy lives and their lives are falling apart, but they're still in work and they're doing things. And so they're not overly resilient. The other one I think we have going in is, it's all of these kinds of entities, right? It's business continuity, and it's cybersecurity and emergency management and risk management and all those things. And you put them all together and you mix them up, and that's resilience. One of the things that I learned in the research is that Nassim Taleb has this in Anti-Fragile, has this really interesting range of things that are fragile and robust, and then anti-fragile. And in the robust category, these are things that are meant to absorb shock and get back to the way things were. Because the way things are is very efficient. It's very effective. It's very clear. We all know what to do. It's not confusing. It's not scary. It's what we're used to. And we like things that we're used to. Yeah. And so business continuity is about, oh crap, the power went out or something bad happened. Let's absorb that shock. We might have to do it a bit creatively, but we're going to get back to the way things were. Same services, same way of doing things. Risk management, emergency management, cybersecurity, all of these are like, hey, a bad thing's happened. Let's absorb that shock and bring people back. But the stories of resilience are like, that's not going to work. The robust entities are outstripped, and something new has to happen. So here's an example, right? If you were to sit down and do a business continuity plan with the court system, I talked to somebody in Wisconsin, right? So the court system in Wisconsin, you could not put in a business continuity plan that we're going to do Zoom proceedings, because it had to be in person. So there's nothing that you would do with that in a business continuity plan. What happened during COVID? We did Zoom court proceedings because now it's allowed. So we're going to do some different things in different ways, and we may have to pivot very dramatically. One of the things that we saw with there's not a lot of research, which is what makes this very interesting. But some of the research that does exist is with Christchurch earthquakes. And one of the things you see with the Christchurch earthquakes is businesses pivoted very significantly. Some of them changed their products, their services, many, many different things. My thought is that, and what the research seems to say, is that, okay, all of the things that we do here, by and large, are to set up an organization to go back to the way things are, back to the way things were. But resilient organizations find a way to not only absorb that loss, but to welcome it and like the change, and to change, to pivot, to evolve into something new. And that's not something we can probably go into a business continuity discussion. And here's where he's cutting me out. Now, thanks very much, David. That was really good. I'm bored to tears now, and we've got to get on with our 11 o'clock drive time.
So it's interesting because I've been to Christchurch, and I've seen how some of the businesses changed, and they lost part of their downtown. And we've all seen the picture of the church that was crumbling. But some of the shops that had crumbled and part of their downtown, they rebuilt it using the big freight containers.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They built that.
Yeah.
And they're all beautiful, bright colors, and they lined them up, stacked them up, and they created this new little shopping area so that people could get out and about and intermingle, feel as though they were part of the community again. They were doing things different. It was open, and I was talking with someone who owned a little bar. One of them was actually a little bar, and they said, we kind of like this setup because we're more open.
Yeah.
Usually you've got a front window. Now we've got windows on three sides. It's brighter. We're seeing more people, and it feels different. And I guess that's the kind of thing that you're talking about, right?
Significantly so. So, think about something like many of the universities, but in my personal experience, the Ohio State University, inside of 3 weeks, they put 12,000 courses online. So think about that, right? For how many decades have we been teaching in class, right? With the chalkboard or the whiteboard and the something. I mean, it's advanced, but okay, it's we're all going to sit here. And in 3 weeks, they changed 12,000 courses online. Now think about that's how you do a lab. How do you do chemistry? How do you do nursing? But they figured out these ways. So think about that, right? You couldn't come up with a business continuity plan, a risk management plan, a crisis man that said, hey, in the event of emergency, we're going to throw everything online. The heck you are. Well, in this case we were, because that's how we survived. And now here's the interesting thing, right? Is that how do we then move that from just the surviving to the thriving? So now what we're experiencing is, you know what? More people can come to court cases if they just call in than if they have to be here in person. More students from across the world can attend our classes if we don't have to make them here. The numbers for healthcare for the homeless in Baltimore, Maryland, because they started offering telehealth services, their I don't know what dropout cancellation rate went from 33 to from 66 to 33 or something. Incredible numbers. And so I guess I'll wrap this back up because I think James I'm bored with you now.
No, not at all.
How about that? So I think our images, right? So I said, what are our images, right? When I think of the resilient person, right? He's battered down. She's trying to push up the domino or Sisyphus's rock up the hill. Or we think of, all these bad things. The right image of organizational resilience is like a field full of corn and happiness and profit and right. Like the best resilient organizations are able to somehow embrace that loss, embrace that change and say, okay, this is good. This is going to be okay. And just pivot it and go with it. And I mean, look at the stock market over the last couple of years, right? Corporations were able to figure out how to do this. So, so how do we get those new? And anyway, so that's kind of the opening sort of the book. There's a lot to resilience that I think we haven't talked about. Now, that's got good and bad things, because if you're executives and you've spent your money investing in what we've told you to invest in, which is risk management and business continuity and those things, now we're coming to you like, that's good. It's not enough. You've got to do more. right?
Yeah.
If you want to be, and I think that's one of the things we learned out of COVID is like, we're going to have to be more resilient because the disruptions that we're going to have, and not just from the outside, mergers and acquisitions and software and disruptive technology and all the things that we do to ourselves inside of the organization is going to require us to be more resilient, more flexible. We're going to have to look for and embrace that loss, and that is not easy. That is not
That's
easy.
why I'm not a big fan of the expression "return to normal."
I think that's right. Although I think there's some sense to why we have that expression. But a lot of this is really hard for human beings. We don't like that kind of change. We like to know how to pick up the phone or write an email or go to a meeting. I mean, think of the cultural aspects that are baked into the status quo. What we're finding is, well, in these situations of great change, you just keep doing what you've been doing, and it's going to get a whole lot worse.
We've seen some industries, entire industries, fundamentally change. So look at the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
So a lot of restaurants and restaurant chains that viewed to go or takeaway as something they wouldn't do
Absolutely.
or an evil to now. There's one restaurant chain that is redesigning their packaging so that when the food gets to your house, it's better tasting, it's fresher, because they've decided they've seen it's now 40% of their revenue. And they said in this one chain in 2019, it was like 4% of their revenue.
Sure.
They've had a fundamental change. To me, that is resilient. You've recognized
That's exactly right.
The market has changed, your customers have changed, so your product needs to change with it. A lot of people aren't going to go back to waiting an hour for a table, waiting 40 minutes for their food in a noisy environment. They're going to continue to order takeout and to go regardless of what's going on in the world.
Even something like, it was illegal to put a alcoholic beverage in with your takeout and give it to you.
And
that
then
was
magically,
illegal. And
now it's not.
Oh, it's okay now.
Yeah.
So these changes, and I think we're going to just see this more and more. And the Great Resignation, I think, is going to drive some of these as well. I mean, we're seeing this whole package. I think what's really interesting, particularly for business continuity, is you start thinking about, okay, so you get these big shifts like the Great Resignation that are going to happen faster. You've got the artificial intelligence and the deep learning that's going to gather a lot of the data for you that we've been gathering as business continuity professionals. So you can sort of see where you would walk into the room, the BIA would be done for you. All the questions about importance and those types of things are all there. Now, what's your job as the business continuity professional, and how is that different from the organizational resilience person? And if you bring all that in with the new things like Agile, Motivation 3.0, Daniel Pink, DevOps, lean, entrepreneurialism, all of these things are starting to shape the workplace. And we see these big shifts like the Great Resignation.
And now, when will your book be coming out?
You said summer.
Are you doing a stadium tour?
I hope to.
Yeah.
Bono has called me. I've been so busy with the book and I haven't gotten back to him yet. But I mean, there's things. There's things. Yeah. I mean, he's got the new XM radio channel, but that's been a year old. So I think things are calming down for him a little bit.
Well, now I'm curious. Because you kind of hinted at it, where do you see business continuity management going over the next
It's been great talking to you guys. Listen, you have a great conference.
Now he wants to leave. You don't even have to get into it deeply.
My concern, if that's the right word, as it was right after COVID, is what are the lessons that the executives have taken away from COVID? And my concern is something like, well, if business continuity is about creating documents, creating shelfware, gathering data, and if that wasn't used to manage COVID,
collect more data?
That's the question, right? So what are executives going to think about that, right? I can easily see where executive goes, business continuity is shelfware. COVID, I didn't use any shelfware. Business continuity, okay, you're there to do the regulations and the compliance and audit. And other than that, I don't need you, because what I really need to invest in is crisis management and resilience, organizational resilience, because those are the things I think that largely got us through COVID. Now, I think there are ways to do business continuity which contribute to those things. playbooks, right?
Mhm.
And again, now we go back to like the pre-populated BIA. Well, look, I think what we have to get people ready for are an increasing number of shifts, many of which can be absorbed and brought back to normal, but it's going to take more creativity. It's going to take a real focus on culture. And I mean that at every level, how we get things done around here. So I think we have to look at culture, innovation. Look, here's something that's really difficult to think about or uncomfortable to think about, right? One of the things I think we learned from COVID is that soft skills are really key, right? And I don't think anyone who's been up here has said that yet in the last, say, an hour and a half. Anyway.
And my topic was that.
Yeah, so there you go. Nonetheless. So here's the thing, right? And this is one of the things, wow, it would take a lot to unpack this, but I'll just say one of the things we learned from the Christchurch research is that at any time during a prolonged disaster, somewhere between 40 and 50% of people are thinking very seriously of leaving. Well, look at the numbers, right?
Yeah.
So what keeps them there, right? Well, what keeps them there, the research shows, is, well, employers who care and sense of value. Now we go back to Daniel Pink, right? It's the autonomy, mastery, and value. If I'm going to get that wrong. Anyway, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Yeah, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And that's got to be supported by the organization and by the bosses. So here's the thing, right? If the soft skills count for 20, 40, 60% of a success in navigating a post-disaster situation, how much of those are we teaching? How much are we even talking about in a meeting? I should be able to go into a business continuity meeting and spend 1 out of every 3 sessions on active listening and caring and empathy and diversity. Well, let's say dissimilitude, because diversity is a packed word right now. But and try to sell that to executives. Maybe now we can. Maybe now is the time to have some of those discussions and say, hey, not only do I have to get your people ready to do payroll, but I've got to help your leaders get ready to be able to care and bring in those soft skills.
Yeah, that's come up quite a few times.
Yep.
The last 2 days.
these last
Yes.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So maybe this is a good shift, right? Maybe we haven't had the leverage to have these kinds of discussions, but now I think it's pretty clear, and maybe leadership. And look, what's interesting about this is caring for employees during a disaster situation, I'm going to argue, is ethical and moral, but it's also profitable. I mean,
Yes.
Even in the most Machiavellian sense of how to treat people, it shows that, well, if you care for them and you take care of them and you provide them with purpose and empowerment and mastery and autonomy, well, they'll stay. And that's a good thing. You want that.
And they will also promote you
And
to other people
Correct.
out there. If you're not doing that, well, yeah, I work for so-and-so. And that's as far as it goes. Oh, what's that like?
Yeah.
Right?
I can count on maybe one hand the number of people I know who love where they work. But yeah, and so the power has shifted a little bit. So maybe this gives us a window of opportunity to talk about some of these things and say, hey, we need to spend some time. I mean, we've always said you can't draft a plan of action and drop it on somebody's desk and expect them to use it at time of disaster and use it well for so many reasons. Well, not only because it's just activities, but now also because we've got to have some of these soft skills and these other capabilities.
Yeah, we do.
Could be a fascinating time. Could be really interesting time right now. But I think it would be nice if we had our collective stories that we were telling together and really crafting that message.
Well, I look forward to your book.
Me too.
Yeah.
I look forward to your book, and I look forward to your next book, Machiavellian Resilience.
Ooh, there
I
we
think
go.
it's a
Ooh,
very
that's nice, right?
flashy title.
Yeah, I was
That
playing with
would give
existential
people-
windshield, but maybe that's better.
Well,
That
you
was a
can
good
have
title.
Machiavellian Resilience for free.
He already wrote it down. That's a shame. Oh,
No.
Alex has already wrote the book.
yeah, he's already.
Yeah, I've
in
already
fact,
got the
I get it.
Thank you for being a guest and stopping by.
Thank you very much. My
you won't-
pleasure.
See, I can't give you a copy of the BIA book.
Right.
Because you already have a copy
Right,
of that.
right,
So,
right.
he's actually quoted on the
You know,
cover.
the irony of that is so deep.
I didn't
I
believe,
know.
when
I
he
know,
first told me
right?
that, I thought he was lying to me.
It's true,
So-
though. I mean, but it's a great look. It's a really good book because it starts to say, look, if you want to really do a BIA, like these are the things you need to think about. And it's not one. I mean, there's a lot to consider. I mean, you don't undertake a BIA lightly. There's a lot.
See, I should have used you.
Okay, excellent.
the testing, disaster recovery, and business continuity plans.
Very good. Did you?
And I did sign it.
Yay.
So it's signed copy.
When will
Thank
you get?
very
When
much.
are you going to get more initials after the
He's
name?
working on it.
I mean,
There's
it's
more.
just okay. Is it? Oh, you ran out
He's
of
working
cover.
on more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
we're-
shame.
yeah,
Yeah,
right
well,
now
maybe
you
the
have
next
to
book.
get the special edition.
Maybe the
And,
next book. Maybe if you
uh,
printed it in landscape, then you'd have.
David, for you to write the first draft of Machiavellian Resilience, this is a Resilient by Design notebook from Reena Singh, who hosts and runs the Resilience podcast. It's blank.
Awesome. Very nice.
So there'll be nothing
Just like
objectionable
my-
to you in
my
here.
mind. Yes, it's very good. It's a good fit for all the things in me. That's very good. Awesome. Hey, thanks, guys. Well, hey,
Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks,
my
David.
pleasure.
Great to
Thanks a
finally
lot.
see
Thanks
you
a
in
lot,
person.
everybody. Yeah, it's been wonderful. I'm glad everyone's coming through. It seems like a great thing. And,
Yeah.
hi, everybody. Bye, everybody. Wish you were here. It's.
I was wondering who you're
it's fun.
waving to.
There's a camera. See, there's a camera.
Where can we see you next, David? Or if people want to learn more about you and
I'm
your,
on. Where am I? I'm on LinkedIn. AdaptiveBCS.com. AdaptiveBusinessContinuitySolutions.com. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I'll be on the Risk Awareness Week like Thursday. So
Okay.
I'm doing like 3 things in a row and then like nothing, and then hopefully the book will come out and away
then
we go.
stadium tour.
We'll see you.
And then right. All right, thanks, guys.
Well,
All right,
you're,
thanks,
you're
David.
invited to be on the show when the book comes out.
Okay,
I'll
cool.
tell you now.
Sounds
So-
great.
Or you're invited now,
Sounds
I should
great.
say. I shouldn't tell you you're
No,
going
it's
to be
all
on there.
good. Yeah,
Invite
it's all
you to be
good.
on the
Yeah,
show.
Cool. All right, bye, everybody. Thanks.
Take
Bye,
care.
David. Thank you.
It only took me 4 years to finally meet him face to face, but hey, we got there.
And here we are.
Here we are. We're
That's
in our
exciting.
last 15 minutes. What are we going to talk about? You've got our list of
There's so
topics.
much here. I don't even know. What do we want to roll through in 10 minutes? That's the most exciting thing. I think, let's wrap up with something that's been touched on by a few of our speakers about getting ahead in our profession and what it takes for that. And we've heard a lot about the soft skills, which are critical, and being strategic and not tactical. But you brought up something before we went on the air around passion. So I think maybe we spend a few minutes talking about passion as it relates to our industry and being successful in our industry.
do you want to go first or?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, go first. You go first.
So I've been thinking about this. So, a lot of people reach out to me and say, they certainly don't say, I want to be like you when I grow up, because that's disturbing. But people say, hey, we see you everywhere. How did you get to be successful the last few years? And one of the big things that I'm passionate about is I tell people you should be speaking on topics that you're passionate about. Look at our last guest. David Lindstedt is very passionate about everything, which is one of the things I love about him. And when you're at a conference, you gravitate towards speakers who are passionate, regardless of what they're talking about. You read an article where you can feel the author's passion. Most successful people are usually passionate about something. And that's the one thing I encourage people in our profession. If you're passionate about BIAs or the cloud or building mainframes or resilience or taking risk, whatever it is, those are the things you should be spending your time on. And I've noticed a lot of people, when I give them that advice, they're kind of reluctant to do that because they're afraid, well, we're in risk management. We're supposed to be button up and tight and conservative. But I think passion is a huge part of that accelerator, those soft skills that help people succeed in their career.
Yeah, I talked about that in my presentation. You mentioned soft skill, and it's a part of, not being afraid to show a part of yourself. If you're passionate about something, show it. You're not just promoting. Let's say you have a passion for music. You're not showing just the passion for a certain song or an artist or something like that. You're showing the passion that you have for that, what you enjoy, which is showing a part of yourself. And that's the difference. If you are passionate about something, you show yourself. If you like classical music, well, don't just tell me how great Mozart is or Bach or somebody like that. Get up and play the tuba or the oboe or violin or whatever. Show your passion through that way, the creativity, and that's how you show yourself and open yourself up. And that's the soft skill that a lot of people are afraid to, because if sometimes when you lift the cover, you're afraid of what's underneath. And if it's yourself, you don't want people to see that maybe underneath that cover, you're not perfect, but you've got a passion for something. And there's nothing wrong with having passion, because it'll come through and your personality will shine and people will gravitate towards you that way.
Absolutely. And I think without passion, you and I wouldn't be sitting here live broadcasting from Continuity Insights right now. We spoke about this idea. We got excited about this idea. And then before you know it, here we are live with the world, with the conference attendees, the exhibitors, sponsors. That all came from excitement, which turns into passion, which turns into an idea that actually happens.
And stay tuned, because we've got ideas to for this too, right? We won't give anything away.
We do have ideas. We will be broadcasting from other conferences, which we're excited about, and we'll share that information when we can.
Come say hello, Marie-Helene Primeau. Come say hello. Come on, you're here. We only have 10 minutes left, but come say hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, yourself?
Good. Marie, you what was it? 4 years ago, you were a guest on the show.
Yeah,
right?
well, I don't know how long ago, but yes, I've been a guest on your show.
Yeah, it's quite a long time. How are you feeling being at Continuity Insights?
Really good. Actually, a lot of interesting people I've been meeting. Really, been very valuable. Yeah.
Great. And is this your first conference of the year? Probably not, because I know you do a lot of traveling.
Yeah, well, I was actually at the DRJ conference before.
Everybody was at DRJ.
Where was Alex?
Yeah,
I feel like I missed out on something.
Well, I think the fact of having gone to a first conference doesn't make it as weird to be all in person again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it seemed as if there hadn't even been COVID, you know, when we were there last month.
So what are you seeing with conferences now that you've been to DRJ and Continuity Insights? And I know you're always busy with a lot of things. And hopefully, knock on wood, we're coming out of COVID on some level. Where are you seeing things coming from all the interactions you've been having?
Well, I think there's definitely a keen interest in having more robust programs in place. And there were some people that were scared that with COVID and people working remotely, that there wouldn't be any need for business continuity anymore, when it really isn't the case. You know, obviously a popular word these days is operational resilience. It's definitely a key one, as well as vendor and reliance on third parties is also something that's key. So no, there's definitely some interest in lots of, you know, people looking for professionals in business continuity. So we've had a lot of people go through training and are really interested in learning more about principles and you know, standards.
Is there anything new over the last 6 to 12 months that your clients have been asking for that's been surprising or interesting to you?
Well, I'd say, you know, obviously there's a great interest on cyber, where it was there before, but I think there's an urgency now to prep. People are going back to playbooks as well. So whereas we were, you know, encouraging people to have more kind of all, you know, loss of premise, loss of IT, loss of people, loss of, or, you know, unavailability of vendors, they want to have more specific playbooks. So there's a kind of need to, you know, balance it out so that you're not developing too many playbooks, but there's definitely a desire to have more step-by-step approach to some of the different
more documentation that can be used, can be adapted to the situation, rather than having every situation with its own document, which would give you just, you know, a library full of stuff that nobody would read.
Yeah, well, I think there's kind of a mix where people had moved away from that library, but then they still want to have a bit more precision as to what they're expected to do. So like they still want a checklist. So they're not as much comfortable not having a checklist at all, or, you know, too broad. Obviously the mix as well, you know, the crisis management and business continuity. Unfortunately, there were lots of organizations where there was a disconnect, where people were doing business continuity for compliance reasons and not necessarily leveraging for actual continuity of operations. So I think this gap is now needs to be bridged, where business continuity. I think that's what operational resilience also brings to the table, is actually doing business continuity for the right reasons.
Exactly.
And being able to continue your operation and not just doing it for compliance. So that tie of, being able to use your plans when you have to respond is definitely there as well. And we're seeing more interest of people with the notification component that we have within our software, as well as to being able to document, but also being able to respond.
And I think that's certainly been exposed the last 2 years. We've all seen organizations that have passed business continuity audits, but they didn't actually mitigate risk. And so when COVID came along, or when they've had a cybersecurity event or wildfires or anything that's happened the last 2 years, they're like, hey, we're in compliance. We've met all the requirements of the standard of this audit, but we are totally falling down, actually responding to a real event.
Yeah. I've seen that happen. Actually, where I am right now, they've had that happen. So we're going through those talks of changing that and trying to get out of that mindset, because it's really easy to fall into that. Especially when you get that audit mindset, you think you are actually doing what you need, but you're really doing it just to get the tick box or the stamp of approval.
A lot of things that we've had requests for is also exercises. We've done lots of exercises, even remotely. So virtual exercises has been something that we've been very busy with as well. At one point, people were also saying that from a COVID standpoint, well, they didn't need to exercise because they were in it. But this is coming back again. And as you're saying, you can you've been successful. Maybe you were lucky. You had, everything fell into place. But there's some gray spots, some areas, and exercise are also a great opportunity for team building, opportunities as well. If people are all remote, well, at least it gives something to get together. Right?
Exactly. The whole makeup is different. If you may have been in the exercise yourself because you're living, through COVID, but that was when everybody was in an office. Well, now they're not in there. For the most part, a lot of people are still at home. Organizations are recruiting globally now, so your exercises and all that related to it is going to change. It's not the same. You can't do the same exercise you did before.
And I love what you said about it also being team building, because a lot of organizations now are permanently remote. They're losing that team building aspect, which affects the culture of the company, but then it also affects how they respond during a crisis. You're on a call, all of a sudden we're on a bridge at 3 a.m. trying to deal with an incident. That's not the time we first want to be getting to meet each other and know each other and understand each other and learn how to communicate with each other. So I agree with you. I think those exercises are more important than ever now.
Question, are you still with the president of DRI, or was it BCI? I forgot.
It was BCI Canada. Well, I'm still on the board of the BCI Canada chapter, but I'm no longer the president of the chapter.
See,
I'm still a leader of the Quebec region. So
okay, I was wondering because I couldn't remember. I have to ask her because I knew she was busy with one of them.
Yeah, but I'm still busy with it. I'm just no longer I'm the former president of the BCI Canada.
That's
chapter.
the best chair to have in any organization, past president.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we've run almost to the end of our show, but thank you for stopping by. Seeing you there, it's like, I know who Marie is.
And if people want to learn more about you or your organization, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Well, they can either reach out to me through LinkedIn, or that's probably the easiest way, or through our website. So it's Premier Continuum, the name of our organization. And
well, as a thank you gift, a signed copy of my latest book.
Great.
Planning and Performing the BIA.
Great.
It's a great fire starter in case you get cold sometime.
We won't do that. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for stopping by. It was nice meeting you.
Take care. Well, James, we've come to the end of our 45 minutes.
Alex, we actually did it.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, actually, there's still one thing that hasn't made an appearance.
Before we get into our thank yous.
We made a joke about it a long time ago. Oops.
This is my new friend, the trash can.
The $20 cash.
So we learned a lot this week about ourselves. We also learned a lot about exhibiting. I've exhibited, as part of a sponsor before. I've never been the paying part of that sponsor through a company. So yes, Alex and I learned that the trash can, my beloved trash can here, is not free.
No.
It is an add-on, as is also something more important, electricity.
Power.
We brought a power cord, we brought an extension cord, but you can't plug in for free.
Nope. We
we're
completely forgot about that.
So a little bit, for that accounting department, I'm sorry about that invoice, but we want to thank, our sponsors, Illuminate Advisory, Stone Road, for co-producing this. We want to thank the team at Continuity Insights, Bob Nakau and Don Grennan, for agreeing to let us do this. Totally ridiculous premise. Has been, I think, very successful. We've had very overwhelming response. Like I said, you will see us at another conference soon near you. And I think
when or where.
we don't have final dates yet, but you will see us together again with new and improved equipment. We'll talk about some lessons learned.
Yeah, we have to debrief.
We certainly need a sign that says we're on the air, because people haven't quite grasped that over a few days, but that's okay. That's on us. But I want to thank everyone for being a part of this. Thank you, Alex, for putting up with some of my harebrained ideas and talking me off the ledge at 3 a.m. when I'm like, what are we doing? What did we get ourselves into? This has been a great experience, a great adventure, a great risk.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we took this risk together.
Well, thank you, James. I echo everything you said. And thanks to everyone at Continuity Insights and the hotel here, everyone at Omni Hotel who set things up for us and put up with our questions in the morning. Where's this? Where's that? Can you do this for us? Very helpful people. Really enjoyed it. We got to our 200th episode. I'm glad to have shared that with everyone as well. I'm very proud of that. And I think you said everything else. I don't have a lot more I want to add. You will see us again in about 2 weeks, because we record another This Week in Business Continuity. And we'll just talk about the things we didn't touch on this week.
We've got quite a list. All right. So I'm off to Annapolis, Maryland. You're off back home.
I'm going home.
All right.
Yeah,
Sounds
home.
Great.
And the last thing I want to say is stay prepared, everybody.
See you soon.